What is up, Pre-Med Starts? Dr. Dale, the author of How to Raise a Doctor and the author of PreMed Mondays, both books available on Amazon.com. And of course, you're listening to the PreMed Mondays Mentoring Podcast. Really excited about today's episode. We'll be talking about 5 types of mentors you should have. You need mentors to be successful. Check it out. Happy Monday, Pre-Med Star. So before we really get into this episode, let me take a moment to say thank you guys. We hit 1,000 downloads for this podcast, and we did that in a pretty quick time. So that shows me that you guys are listening to the podcast. You guys enjoy the podcast. Every week we're getting more and more listeners and more downloads. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope that it's meeting your need. And again, for those of you who actually send me messages back, I do appreciate it. And just keep on listening. Don't know what else to say. Just keep on listening. Share it with your friends. And if I'm not meeting your needs, feel free to send me a message and let me know what I can do differently, because the whole goal of this podcast is to help you guys meet your goals. All right. Really excited about this week. And I'm excited about it because we are talking about something that has been so critical and so essential in my life and helping me get to the point that I'm at today. And that is mentorship. So any of you guys who chat with me on PreMed Star or meet me in any other environment, basically, you know that I'm always talking about the importance of mentors. First of all, I'm always talking about the importance of your network. But within that network are mentors. And I think mentors are essential for success. So essential for success. And I think this is one of the most underappreciated and undervalued things about the pre-med journey. And really not even the pre-med journey, any journey in general. Talk to any successful woman or any successful man, and they'll tell you about a mentor who helped them get there. That's just the way it is. Whenever you look at the beginning of my book, PreMed Mondays, let me flip to it so I can say it right. You'll notice that I start the book off with a quote. And the quote's from a guy named Jim Rohn, who was a very successful businessman, and he was a business coach and motivational speaker. And the quote says, "My mentor said to me, let's go do it, not you go do it." How powerful it is when someone says, let's. And again, that's by Jim Rohn. So mentorship is just such a beautiful thing. It's about people doing things together, somebody who's more experienced stepping in and helping somebody who's not quite as experienced in the area, and them going and doing the thing together. And that's what makes it so powerful. That's why it's so important. All right, before we get into this, I'm going to ask you guys a quiz question, pop quiz right here. Where does the term mentor come from? Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. That was my Jeopardy music. Your time is up. So the term mentor comes from the Odyssey. Remember the epic tale, the Odyssey, which you might have read in high school, about Odysseus. Odysseus, a journeyman, goes along this epic voyage, the Odyssey, and he has a child, Telemachus. I think you pronounce it Telemachus, but he has a child that he has to leave behind because he goes on this crazy journey, right? And he needs somebody to leave his child with to help raise his boy into a man. He wants his boy to be taken care of and somebody to guide them and show them, hey, this is how you become a man. So the guy he leaves his child with is named mentor. And that's where this term mentor comes from. And I love that because whenever I'm thinking about mentorship and people that I invest heavily into mentor, when I think about this, I try to think about it from that life step viewpoint of, hey, this guy, Odysseus, leaves his child with somebody named mentor. And this whole thing about, hey, mentor was in charge of helping make sure this child developed into what he was meant to be, what he was supposed to develop into. So that's what mentors are about. Mentors are there to help mentees develop into what they're supposed to be, right? So mentors are standing there instead, not instead, but in the stead, kind of instead, for somebody so they can be successful, right? So the whole idea about having a mentor is, hey, I need somebody to stand there and show me how to do this. And that's what mentors are about. That's why mentors are key, because these are people who can show you how to do things, people who have been there, and people, even if some of them haven't necessarily been there, but people who have the resources to know what it takes to get there. Okay. But by and large, most of your mentors should have had some experience with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? By and large, that's what you want, because that's the easiest way. I say this in PreMed Mondays in the book. The easiest way for you to figure out how to do something is to ask somebody who's already done it. You can spend all day long trying to figure out how to solve this one single problem by yourself, or you can say, hey, that person's already done it. I'm going to go over there and ask them how they did it. And the person will be like, oh yeah, it was easy. Just do this, that, and that. Next thing you know, hey, you've got it done, as opposed to if you spend all day long banging your head on the wall trying to figure it out. Mentorship. So the first point I'm going to make about mentorship, and then I'll get into the 5 types you should have, is mentorship. You need to put your pride aside if you want to be mentored. You have to learn how to put your pride aside, because first of all, you have to know, hey, I need help. I want help. I need to ask for help, right? So you got to put your pride aside. It's going to take you being able to say, hey, I'm going to ask somebody to guide me along this journey. Because by nature, we want to say, hey, we can do it by ourselves. I'm going to go in this. I'm a smart guy, especially pre-meds, right? All you guys think you're smart, right? And you are smart, not just think, but most of you guys are very smart. You're pre-medical students. Many of you guys are going to become doctors. You're going to be joining the top profession in the world. So a lot of you guys are brilliant, but you have to learn to put that brilliance aside and be able to ask for help. So for those of you who don't know how to do that, I'm telling you, before you get too deep into the ball game, before you get too deep into college or even medical school, or even as an early physician, learn how to ask for help now. Learn how to find mentors now, because that's going to be essential to your success. All right, so let's get into these 5 types of mentors, okay? I'm just going to open up my book here so I can say them in the order that I have them in the book. So if you're following along with the hard copy of the book PreMed Mondays, we're on page 39, week number 10, page 39. So the first type of mentor you want to have is a peer mentor. And I'm thinking back to when I was in undergrad, and I definitely had some peer mentors. I had a lot of them. So these are people who are either at your level or just a little bit in front of you. So you might be a freshman, they might be a sophomore, right? Or you might be a freshman, they might be a senior, something of that sort. Or you might be a freshman, they might be a freshman too, but they have more experience at something than you do. But for the most part, they're kind of on your level. You can relate to them very easily, and they're either in the thick with you right now, or they've been through it very recently in time, and they can look back and for them it's like yesterday. They can tell you, hey, yeah, I had that same teacher. Let me tell you how to handle this teacher. People who are really close to the situation, and these people are essential, again, because they've just gone through it. And the key thing about being an effective mentor is you need to be able to connect with people emotionally. I'm reading a book right now by John Maxwell. That book is called, I believe it's called Everybody Communicates, Few People Connect. And the whole purpose of that book is, how do I better connect with you so I can positively impact your life? That's what we focus on with PreMed Star, right? That's what a lot of us are trying to do. We're trying to figure out how can we best connect with you on an individual level in the community, but also on the individual level so we can best impact your life for good. That's what we do. That's how we spend our time, right? So that's what this book is about, and I'm reading it so I can get better at it, so I can better help people. And what I've learned from that book, one of the key take-home points is connections are about emotions, and mentorship is about being able to connect with somebody on the emotional level. And the great thing about having a peer mentor is they're very closely tied to those emotions, because emotions aren't distant anymore. So even though I went through the pre-medical journey myself, and I remember what it was like, I remember it, it's a little bit more difficult for me to say, man, yeah, I remember how time-consuming studying for organic chemistry was and how defeated I felt when I walked into those tests. It's a little bit more difficult for me to say that because now I'm kind of far removed from that. I took organic chemistry, goodness gracious, 14, 15 years ago or something now. So I took organic chemistry quite some time ago. So it's a little bit difficult for me to remember exactly what it was like. Hey, but your buddy who just took it last semester, they can say, oh my goodness, that test was so hard. I remember I stayed up all night long for that very first test, and it made me just feel so horrible. And then you can relate to them on this certain emotional level, which is essential for you to develop trust. The reason emotions are so important is because emotions help you develop trust in somebody. When you trust somebody, you can better connect with them. And when you can better connect with them, they can more effectively guide you along the journey. So that's why having a peer mentor is so great. You have somebody who, first of all, make sure they know their stuff, right? You don't want just anybody telling you whatever. You want to make sure somebody who's done well, or even if they didn't do well in the particular area you need help with, he can at least tell you why they didn't do well. Make sure the person's got some brain, some sense to them, right? And after you've confirmed that, make sure they care about you. That's critical for mentorship. You always hear the saying that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. So make sure they care about you. And then after that, make sure you guys can connect emotionally, because you want to develop that trust in them. You want to be able to trust that they're there to help you, and you want to be able to trust their acumen and their guidance they'll give you. All right, so that's why having a peer mentor is so critical, is because you can relate to them usually a little bit better on that emotional level, because things are a little bit more recent for them. And of course, when you're talking to somebody who's kind of close to your position in life, it's just easier for you to communicate with them sometimes. All right. Going to the second one, a medical student or physician mentor. So the second type of mentor all pre-med should have is a medical student or physician mentor. This is taking that just to the next level, the next step. And the reason this is critical is because, hey, you're trying to get into medical school, so you need to talk to somebody who's actually done it, gone through the process of getting into medical school and has got into medical school. Or that could be either a medical doctor, or that could be, and in many cases, this might even be better, a medical student, because they did it more recently. On PreMed we have quite a few medical students who I know send messages and communicate with you guys. I know a lot of you guys are being mentored by these students, and I think that's great. That is phenomenal, right? And you need that. That's essential, because you want to be able to say, hey, you just did this process. You just got into medical school. Tell me, what was it like? Tell me, what did you do when this situation arose? Tell me, how did you afford to travel to all these interviews? Tell me, what was the hardest interview question you got, right? You want to be able to ask these questions to people who have just recently done what you did. And even if it's not recent, you can ask me a question. So, of course, again, I did this a little bit ago, but I've been through the process. I know what it's like. The process is by and large the same now as it was when I went through the process. So you need to have somebody, medical students or physician mentor, who has been through the process and can tell you, hey, I know what it's like because I did it. I went through this difficult process, right? All right. So that's the second type of mentor you want to have. Third type of mentor is a research mentor. Okay. And here's the deal. So not every pre-medical student is going to want to do research. Many people just hate research, and that's perfectly fine. You do not have to do research. But one of the things I always tell people is you're not going to know if you like research if you don't give it a shot. You're not going to know if you don't give it a shot. So I encourage pre-medical students to give it a shot. And when you give it a shot, you're going to have somebody in your lab who's going to have to mentor you. I say lab loosely, right? Because not all research is done in the lab anymore, but you're going to have somebody who's part of your research team who needs to be able to mentor you. Somebody's going to have to be able to take you under their wings and show you, how do I do this? Because if we just throw you in the middle of a project and say, hey, you get this job done, you're going to have no idea how to do it. But if we say, hey, you get this job done, and you say, okay, can somebody from the group who knows how to make this happen mentor me and guide me along the way? It's going to be so much easier. It's so much easier when you're doing research with somebody who knows what you're doing and somebody who cares. And again, remember, always think back to where the term mentor came from, right? The Odyssey, Odysseus, Telemachus, this guy mentor. I always think back to that. So remember, you want to have somebody who's going to feel as though it is their responsibility to make sure you're successful. That's what being a mentor is about. So somebody in your research team needs to take stock in your success. And when you do well, it reflects good on them. If you do poorly, they'll feel bad. And whether or not it reflects on them, it doesn't matter. But they'll feel bad because they feel vested in you. I want to see you succeed, right? So research mentor. So if you're going to a research lab, make sure you have to be proactive about this, because in research labs, people are busy. They don't have time for this, right? So you have to be proactive to go out of your way to connect with somebody and say, hey, I need guidance. I'll tell you, when I took the job that I have right now, before I agreed to take this job, I sent an email to 5 key people who are rather influential, reputable people where I'm at. And I said, hey, if I take this job, I need you to promise that you're going to be there to provide mentorship for me. All right. So if you're going to go into a research lab, check ahead of time. Say, hey, will you mentor me? Will somebody in this lab mentor me? All right. Fourth type of mentor is an academic mentor. An academic mentor. And for many of you guys, this is going to be a pre-medical advisor, right? It needs to be somebody who is, again, who knows the process extremely well. And not just about how to get into medical school, that part, but about which courses you should be taking, what other students are doing, things of that sort. And that individual, a lot of times we call them advisors, and advising is different from mentoring. So let me make that clear. Having an advisor is not the same exact thing as having a mentor. But your pre-medical advisors, sometimes you can form a relationship enough with them for them to actually become your mentors. Mentorship is a more intimate type of relationship than advising, right? Mentorship is, somebody's heart's in there with your heart and you guys are going at it together. Whereas advising is giving advice, completely different things, okay? But advisors can be mentors. So you want your advisor to be your mentor as well, all right? And the final one is a spiritual mentor. This is key and critical. So you guys know by now probably that I'm a man of faith, right? So this is critical for me. I think this should be critical for everybody. It's very easy on the pre-medical journey to get caught up with checking the boxes and doing what you have to do. And it's very easy to forget there's a lot more to life than medicine. And there's a much greater meaning. This is my belief, at least. And I believe obviously I believe my belief is true. There's a much greater meaning to life than just us going and becoming doctors. And you need somebody to be able to guide you and keep you focused and bring you back to that, your ultimate purpose as to why you're here, what you're doing. I believe one of the greatest purposes, for me is to serve other people. And I think I imagine most of you guys listening to this podcast probably agree with that, right? And it's so easy to get caught up in this rat race day in, day out, trying to bust your butt, trying to get the grades, trying to do the extracurriculars. And I take a step back and say, all right, why am I really here? What's going on with the church, or what's going on with this, X, Y, and Z? Where am I from a spiritual standpoint? Where am I from from connecting with other individuals on a personal level? And I was always thinking about me get the grade, me get the grade, me get the grade, right? It's how can I serve other people? And for me, it was critical to have spiritual mentors. Critical for me to say somebody who could always be there and turn me back to them. And I will tell you, actually, I didn't have that when I was an undergrad. I wish I would have. But I didn't have that in undergrad. I actually didn't get that until I became a resident physician. But that changed my life. That leaps. I started leaping in life. I went so much further with that when I kept things in the right perspective. That's how I should tell it to you. That's the right thing for me to tell you right now. It helps keep things in the right perspective for you. If you can keep things in the right perspective for you, life is so much easier. Life is so much more enjoyable. And there'll be challenges. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it'll be easier. And life will be so much more enjoyable. And life will feel much more meaningful to you. So have that spiritual mentor, okay? So those are the 5 types of mentors you need to have. And I'm gonna run through them again really, really quick here. I'm running a little bit longer than normal. But again, I get excited because mentorship to me is extremely important. And I want to make sure you guys get this right. So 5 types of mentors you should have as a pre-medical student. First is a peer mentor. Second is a medical student or physician mentor. Third is a research mentor. And that one is obviously if you're doing research, which I think everybody should at least give a shot, at least try it out for a couple months. Fourth is an academic mentor, which typically might start off as a pre-medical advisor or a professor, and you can form a stronger relationship that they actually become a mentor, not just an advisor. And 5 is a spiritual mentor. So those are the type of mentors that I recommend that all of you listen to this podcast should have. They'll help you become successful as a pre-medical student, okay? So hope you guys are really digesting that and I hope it makes sense to you. If you have any questions, you know where to find me on PreMedStar.com. Just search for me, send me a message, connect with me on PreMedStar. And I'm more than happy to help you guys however I'm able to help you. That's why we're here. This week's challenge, let me find it here. Okay, so this week's challenge, the question is, who are your mentors? Make a list of the people who will be good mentors for you. So what you should do really is think about the 5 types of mentors I just mentioned and see if you have somebody to fit under each one of those categories and make that list and talk about that with your accountability buddy, okay? And let me say one other thing here. So a lot of very successful people have this thing called a mastermind. So I have a group of guys I chat with on a regular basis as my mastermind. This mastermind are people who are there walking alongside you, holding you accountable, giving you guidance. You're mentoring each other. You're advising each other. So develop that for yourself too if you can, and put these mentors in your mastermind group. It's almost like your brain trust. Put them in your mastermind group. So know where you need to go to whenever you need help on certain topics. You should have people already in place. So I know when I need something, I have a list of people I know, this is who I'm calling for that, this is who I'm calling for that. And not like need material things, but when I need knowledge, when I need guidance, when I need wisdom. Make sure you have those people in place, okay? So critical. All right. Don't forget to register. We have a webinar coming up with West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine on PreMed Star. We have this webinar. It's coming up on September 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. So you guys know they use PreMed Star to recruit pre-medical students from the site. So make sure you're on. Check out that webinar. There's going to be some great stuff. You'll be able to ask whatever questions you want, and we'll try our best to get to all the questions. We always have more questions than we have time for, but we'll try our best to get to all the questions for you guys, all right? And next week, we will be talking about 5 things to consider when choosing a major. This is critical because a lot of people think they just have to be a science guy. No, you don't just have to be a science major, okay? So 5 things to consider when choosing a major, all right? See you guys on PreMedStar.com. Connect with me. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, on Google, or whatever podcast player you use. Love you guys. Have a great week.